Right, hi everyone, and welcome to another Real Wunderkammer podcast. I'm over in the USA this time, San Diego, I think. Is that right, Joey? And it's Joey
Across the
Martinez
pond, as you would
across
say.
across the pond, exactly. And we're talking about pre-Columbian artifacts, which Joey is the expert, and he's basically going to school me today because it's something that has always sort of fascinated me, but I literally know nothing about. So, so Joey, I'm just going to get you to take it away first. Explain yourself to everybody, explain what you do, and just the basics of the pre-Columbian sort of cultures and artifacts that you deal in.
Well, thanks for having me here. I really appreciate that. I think it's an honor. So I've seen your work and I respect you and what you do on social media. So my name is Joey Martinez. I live in San Diego, California. Born and raised in California, but I have traveled around the world. Um, so going back to my college years, I studied business and did a 30-year career in logistics and operations. But meanwhile, while I was doing that, I was collecting pre-Columbian art. So it was just a fascination I had with the cultures once I visited the first couple sites when I was in college. And I started learning more and more about this great art form that really isn't talked about a lot in mainstream education. Even though I went through college all the way through, there wasn't a single mention of pre-Columbian art. And so once I discovered this on my own, it was just a fascination. And it's also my ancestry because I'm Mexican American. So this is the art and artistry of my ancestors. And so I've got I know it's a deeper meaning to me. So it's really cool. It's like the wormhole, as they say. Once you start discovering the pieces, you want to learn more about the cultures, and then the artifacts they speak for themselves. I mean, it's just wonderful.
Yeah, so Joey, so why is it called pre-Columbian art then? First off, because
It's just a general term, and it means pre-Columbus, so before Columbus arrived. So it's before that there was contact. That's the art form. So before like the 1500s, the Aztecs are pretty much on the edge of pre-Columbian because obviously they were conquered by Cortez. So anything before that in America, Central America, South America is considered pre-Columbian. So it's just a generic term to describe it.
yeah, and does that run all the way from sort of down into like Argentina that way, or does it stop at a certain place with within South America? Is there a sort of
It goes from south to the border. However, I have heard it talked about when you talk about some of the Native American cultures, a bit pre-Columbus. Sometimes they refer to it in that way, but it's mostly south of the border. Mexico, Central America, South America. Those are pre-Columbian cultures.
right? Cool. Yeah, it's one of those art forms and artifacts that you don't hear a lot about because it's not really taught, like what you said, and it's almost as though it's a lost
For sure.
civilization, isn't it? It's sort of like, is there a lot of people, museums, and places like that that sort of study, especially I suppose out your way there is, but we don't see a lot of it over in Europe and the UK, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a really small niche, but it's a very passionate niche, And so once the people are involved with it, it becomes a lifetime passion. As for me, I always tell when people ask me what's your favorite part of collecting or being involved with this, it's just the people because we're all just a little bit weird, but in a cool way, and we all have this passion for collecting pre-Columbian art. It's the closest thing we have to time travel. So when you can hold a piece, like for example, this piece right here, it's a 2,000-year-old piece and I'm holding it in my hands. And so another person made this 2,000 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's just fascinating. It's like going back into time, and then once you learn about the cultures and about the history behind the pieces, and then visit the sites where they were made, it's just really fascinating to me. And it's not a big group of people, but it's very passionate, and thankfully to social media, we can connect via Zooms, via the podcast that we're doing right now, and then just in general, Instagram, Facebook. I do TikToks, YouTube. It's great. So we're all connected all over the world, but we share this one passion.
Yeah, and that sort of makes you learn more. Each of you have got different items. You could talk about it, and it just helps you out in your field. You learn more, don't you, about each item, and you've both got
Oh, for
ideas
sure.
about them. Yeah. So, what sort of got you into collecting and then actually selling as well? Because I take it your main sort of job is collecting, but then obviously you sell it as well, do you?
Right, right. Well, my main job, I am a full-time dealer now. But what
Yeah.
got me into collecting, it's a crazy story. But so when I bought my first home, I ended up on this crazy reality TV show here in California, And so I had a little extra money, so I'm gonna decorate my place really cool. And at the time, I was into Asian antiques and Tibetan furniture and that type of thing. So that was my first step back, and that was a couple hundred years old. And I remember one time when I went to an antique store, I was just looking around and I saw this display case that had a bunch of Mezcala and Guerrero stone pieces from the Guerrero area of Mexico. And I bought all the pieces. I'm like, oh, this is incredible. I can't believe that this stuff is available. This is awesome. And I was just so into it. And so I bought all that they had. And that's when I started getting into the pre-Columbian art and learning about the cultures. But it turned out that every piece that I had bought initially, they were all replicas. So they were fakes. And
Oh,
so that was
wow.
I don't know, it was a big bummer, but I still kept my passion for collecting. And I told myself, I'm going to learn everything I can about pre-Columbian art so that will never happen again. And that's what I did. I bought books, I went to museums, I looked online at pieces. And then once I started acquiring the pieces and then you handle them, you start to know and you start to see what's real and what isn't real. So.
Yeah, I suppose it's hard. How do you know the authenticity? How do you know if it's a real piece, basically? Because obviously there's fakes with everything. I mean, I got
Oh, for
told
sure, for
some
sure.
some fake bronzes that I got told, and I don't think the person who I bought them off knew either. I thought he was told the story by someone, and because it went through hands, I almost believed him and his story, and I felt that he was being true when he told me. He said they were dug up, and they were these little two bronze. They look like Roman figures, and I'd never seen anything like them before. And I was
Right,
like, yeah,
right.
these are brilliant, and he said, oh yeah, well, they were dug up near the Roman villa in so and so, like this, and they still have mud in the bottom. Someone had even put mud in the bottom of them.
That's always a story. It was dug up.
Yeah, and then
So,
I sent to one of my friends who is a collector and a good collector, and he said, "Wow, I really like." One of them would look like a gladiator, but he looked like a robot gladiator. He had all the shield on, and
right.
that's what I'd never seen one like it before. And he was like, "How much is it? We done a deal, yeah." And then half an hour later, he literally WhatsApped me and was like, "Ed," and then he showed me the place where you could buy them in like Croatia or somewhere where they just make them
Oh, no.
for like
Yeah,
150
that
quid or
happens
something.
quite often. And that's one of the reasons I got into dealing because a lot of my friends were buying pieces or had pieces there. Hey, what do you think of this? I'm like, unfortunately, that's not authentic. It's a nice, replica or a nice artistic piece. So I thought, it was during COVID. I was kind of bored a little bit. I was by myself. I had all my art with me, and I just got into, selling a couple pieces here and there, online. And then it just occurred to me that, maybe I could do this full time. And so the hard part was coming up with the name. What am I going to do? I didn't like the sound of Martinez Gallery. It just doesn't have a ring to it. But so I was thinking, what can I do that people will know what I'm about, but make it kind of interesting and unique, kind of like me a little bit. And so I was like the pre-Columbian gentleman. So when you hear that, hey, it's pre-Columbian art, right? And so my logo is a pyramid. It's actually the Temple One at Tikal. And that's how I got into it, did the website. And because I had so many people and friends that bought fake pieces, I wanted to have a place where everything was authentic. And I would actually educate people and not just sell the art and be like, hey, we're done with it. Create relationships and friendships, but also educate people. So, I mean, I have like 3,500 followers on Instagram and maybe a few dozen actually buy from me, but the rest get the education. And that's cool because we still share that passion, and so I teach people how to find pieces, that are authentic and not to get, suckered by the fakers, by the people selling, pieces that aren't real or reproductions, whether knowingly or unknowingly, they both happen. And so this way, education is power, as they say. So I like to show people. I can show you something really quick if you have the time.
No, we've got loads of time. Show us as much as you want, Joey. I would love
So,
to see as many pieces as you've got because I think that would be
well,
great.
let,
Because I
let, let me
know,
show you a way to authenticate.
yeah, go
Okay,
for
so,
it.
so the first way to authenticate a piece is through the books, right? You see all these books behind me. Just
Yeah,
when you look at pieces, you begin to recognize and become familiar with the style, what it should look like. So the style, and then when you buy from trusted sources, you're going to have a pretty good chance. But there are ways to test certain pieces. For example, this is a Jalisco female. This is a ceramic that's 2,000 years old from Jalisco, Mexico. And so you see all these black deposits on these. These are called manganese deposits, and it's a chemical or it's actually an organic reaction that happens when there's a burial involved. and it just absorbs this into the clay, and you can't really remove it. It's there for good, but you can test these. And so somehow somebody came up with this idea. So it's called 40% cream solution. They use it for if you're going to bleach your hair blonde.
Right.
This is
Okay.
what you would use,
Yeah.
and then you put it, and it turns your hair clear. Then you can add the blonde. So you just
Right.
shake this up, and then you add
So it's like a peroxide
Q-tip.
type thing, is it? Is that what it is? Like a peroxide?
Yeah, it's peroxide,
Yeah.
but it's a really concentrated. And then you just put it right here so you can see it.
Okay.
So you just put on there, and then just give it a couple minutes. Actually, there you start to see it. So you see that fizzing right there, and it's
Yeah.
going to get
Okay.
stronger as you give it a little time. So it's that little white reaction there. It's like a fizzing. I don't know if it's going. There you go. See, it's growing. Some of these
Yeah.
will react stronger than others, so it just kind of depends. But that tells you that this is an organic matter, that these are real deposits. So, and then you just
Oh,
wipe it off when you're done. See, you can see it over here it's starting to fizz now too. So it'll get there. Sometimes you put this on a piece and it just like fizzes up. Like, wow, that was cool. Some
wow.
don't have that quite of a strong. So you just wipe it off and you're all good. However, if you know the types, you don't even have to test it because you know this is a real piece. I mean, it's just everything about this screams it's authentic. It's a no-brainer kind of thing. You have the tapping test.
Okay.
So when you tap it like that, you hear that sound. That tells you it was low fired. If it's high fired, it has a really high pitch to it, and so you can tell from that. There's also the water test where you spray a little bit of water on it, and then that ancient smell from the burial comes up, and it also absorbs quickly into the clay. If it's a new piece, the water it'll stay wet.
So why was
So
this piece
it's kind of
used in a? Why was that piece used in a burial? Why did they use it? What for? Was it to when they go up into
just
heaven to
little
take with
companions.
them? Yeah, companions. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this culture, in the West Mexican cultures, they've built these deep shaft tombs, anywhere from 10 to 30 meters down into the bedrock, and then they built out. And so they would they were ruled by the elite ruling class families. So not necessarily kings or queens, but like a ruling class family with a matriarch and a patriarch would rule over a certain small area. And so it was a kind of ancestor worship. They didn't really worship gods, but it was an ancestor worship. So once
Okay.
the people, the chiefs would pass away, they would put the bodies into these tombs and then put these little companions with them. Sometimes you'll see animals, you'll see couples, a pair, um, Oyas, ceramics, like you name it. So it was all part of the process.
And
So
is it
it's
those?
pretty fascinating.
Is it those sort of pieces that in your main collection? Is that what you tend to go for? The pieces that were used in the burials that they would take as a companion, sort of ancestral companions. Is that your main sort of pieces that you go for in your?
That's some of it. I tend to sell what I know and what I love, and so West Mexican it's divided up into three major groups. You have Colima, you have Nayarit, and Jalisco, like the female I showed you. So those are the big three. However, you do have some other smaller cultures, which I do love West Mexican. It wasn't my favorite when I first started collecting. I could not stand it. It just didn't seem very refined and very cultured and was kind of I don't something just didn't appeal to me. Now it's my favorite, and I love it for those reasons because it's so raw, it's so
Okay.
abstract, and just super cool. And obviously, you have different quality of pieces that go all the way up. So that's now my favorite. For example, this is one of my favorite pieces here, and then this is a
Wow.
2,000-year-old drummer figure from Ixtan del Rio in Nayarit, Mexico, and this is just fantastic. This is what you would call a museum quality piece. And
Wow.
what I really love about this piece is that this belonged to the legendary actor Kirk Douglas. And I have a picture with him with this piece in his
That's
living room in Beverly Hills before he passed away. And I grew up, I don't know how old you are, but when I grew up, I would watch these Westerns with my grandfather on Saturday nights, and we would watch the Kirk Douglas and movies and whatnot. So it's kind of cool owning a piece that it wasn't hearsay that was his, but I have a picture with him with the piece. And so it's one of my favorite pieces. And the
that's
West
some.
Mexican actually appealed to a lot of people. There's a lot of early Hollywood collectors that collected West Mexican. And here's another interesting story. Nelson Rockefeller was one of the earliest of collectors of pre-Columbian art, especially the West Mexican. And this was back when he was in New York, and it was 1950s, and he had this large collection. And he was a huge benefactor to the Met. And so he went to the Met and said, "Hey, I want to display my piece of my West Mexican art in one of your wings." And they actually turned him down and said no, because they didn't consider it art. It was too primitive for them. And
Right.
so that's when he started his own museum called the Primitive Art Museum in New York in the 50s. And ironically, it shut down in the 70s, but the Met absorbed all that collection into their now collection. So yeah, he's just one of the first collectors of that type of art. So
Wow.
it's a wormhole for sure. Once you go down it, there's so much going on.
So do you buy? Do you look for that provenance that has been into a big collection as well? Is that a thing that you do when you're buying? Do you buy from who? Do you buy from? Do you buy from other collectors? Do you buy from auctions? Where do you go to find your
All of
pieces?
the above. And yeah, provenance is everything. So you'll see. Well, so I'll buy from collectors, other dealers, people, auctions. I have a small network of people that I know that have certain pieces. So when I'm looking for something particular, that's where I'll go to. But provenance is everything. So there are some legalities regarding collecting pre-Columbian art, and so back in 1970, they called it the UNESCO Treaty, where these host countries came together and passed a treaty, or it's an agreement protecting cultural heritage. And so there was problems in all these countries: Mexico, Egypt, Peru, all over the world, with looting going on in the sites. And so this agreement established, it's basically a solid foundation that explained the rules and the laws, and that these pieces cannot be removed from Mexico without written permission, or South America or Greece. And so that's what everybody goes by. And so now, of course, the different countries joined the UNESCO Treaty at different times. For example, Mexico joined October 3rd, 1970. Peru joined in 1979. Guatemala in 85. So that's the date that you want to strive for when you're acquiring some of these pieces to sell them, because then you know they're compliant with UNESCO. However, there are some caveats to it. The main one being that the host country has to prove by some means that those pieces were in the country before then, whether it's pictures, whether it's some kind of written account. So, but as an ethical dealer, I do try to get as close as possible at that UNESCO date. So to provide a great provenance for the prospective buyer or collector, but also to conform to some of the legalities. But the other thing is, there is no law in the United States that says collecting these pieces is illegal or anything. So nothing even addresses it. However, the State Department, and I sat in a Zoom with them recently, what they do is they try to work with the agreements, the UNESCO, the cooperation with them. And so they will work with the host countries to get pieces back that they deem trafficked or looted. And so they're going after the big rings that are still trafficking and still looting. However, it's very, very small. And those are mostly happening in Afghanistan, in Middle East, where they're having some turmoil. But the UNESCO treaty was very effective. It did what it was supposed to do, and it stopped looting for the most part, the mass looting. And now all the sites in South America and Mexico are protected pretty well. So 24-hour guards and all these sites, and so you don't
Mm.
see looting anymore. So that's it's kind of like a happy medium. So the pieces that were in pre-UNESCO are grandfathered in to the United States and other countries, and so the pieces that are still there in Mexico are protected now, and it
Yeah.
pretty much put most of the looters out of business. So
Yeah, and it's good, isn't it? Because it still keeps that collecting world going. Because there'll be something that's been in that someone's collection for 100 years, and then they've passed it on. They've they die. Their family doesn't want it, and then that'll be a new piece to the market. So you're still getting the new
for
pieces
sure.
coming in as well, aren't you? With those sort of grandfather rights that what you're talking about. I mean, the other day I back in where I went to a local auction and I found a piece of an Egyptian mummy cartonnage. You know, I mean, you wouldn't get something like that out of the country now, would you? But this has been in a collection and then went to auction. And it had never been seen before. Basically, it had been in the country house since probably the Grand
Right.
Tour or something like that. So it's great when people discover these new pieces. And is that what you're trying to find? Is that piece that hasn't been on the market as well?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for, and that's what makes collecting so wonderful. Is that it's a lot like Bitcoin, because you have a certain small finite amount that's actually available, and that's legal to own and legal to buy. That's UNESCO compliant. So these older collectors that started collecting in the 50s and 60s, when it was like like a floodgate, pieces coming through before they stopped and protected them. Now those pieces are coming to the market, like the Kirk Douglas example. He was a collector in the 50s, passed away a few years ago, and now I guess Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones didn't want the pieces, so they put them in auctions, and then I was able to acquire them, and it's wonderful. And I was just wondering if Catherine has some DNA on this piece. I don't know, Michael Douglas, who knows? But it's just cool knowing that they were at least admired in his Beverly Hills home. But yeah, that's what you want. You want that old provenance. And sometimes you're piecing together the puzzle, with some of these pieces. So the provenance may not be what you think it is, and then once you start researching the pieces, looking at old catalogs, looking at different documentation, you can go down, you can find additional provenance of pieces where, oh, I didn't know this person owned it, and it just adds to the piece and to the provenance, and that's a big thing. So provenance is everything, and to me at least, as an ethical dealer, that's what I look for, and that's why. And I actually list the provenance on all my pieces when I post them on social media, because I want people to know that I am an ethical dealer. I'm not looting. I'm not involved in that whatsoever. And so that's what we want. If we want this to keep continuing, this hobby to grow and prosper, we have to be ethical and we have to be moral about how we do it.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good as well, Joey, isn't it, as well? And do you think that there's a rise in the value of these pieces over time as well because of that? Have you seen the prices rise because it's, like you say, a bit like Bitcoin? They're getting less and less, and is there more people coming to market as well? So are they fetching more money,
Um,
basically? Will they be a good investment,
yeah,
Joey? For me.
right. Well, here's the thing. It does hold its value because it's not like modern art where I can just make another painting tomorrow and, hey, it looks cool. I'm not slamming modern art. I do collect it as well, but you can make more of it, right? But these pieces, there's a finite amount. So they do hold their value. And I think over time that they will appreciate in value because of the fact that there's only a finite amount available. And then you are getting the new people coming into it. There's a value to these pieces because they are the least expensive out of the big, out of the Greek, Roman, Egyptian, African. These are bargains comparatively speaking, to those pieces. So, yeah, if you buy an authentic, well provenance piece, I personally think, this is just my opinion, that it will hold its value, if not appreciate. But I don't buy to invest. I buy because I love the pieces, and so that's one of the big things they tell you is to buy what you love, and you'll never go wrong. Let me show you an example of you talk about provenance. So
Yep.
this is a letter from Judy Nash. So I bought this pair of ear flares. They're these Jaguar ear flares. They're on my website, and they're these large Jaguars, one on each side, and so they were. The provenance said that Judy Nash sold them back in the 1960s, right? She was the first female pre-Columbian dealer in the world, and she had her own, which is pretty radical back in the 60s, right? And so she had her own New York City gallery. So someone told me that she might still be alive. So I found an address for her, wrote to her, and I got this letter back, and she's still alive. She's in her 90s, and she was basically just affirming that the provenance was correct on the piece, that she had owned them and sold them in the 1960s. And then she signed it in the back here, and it's on her original letterhead. And that's just cool. So now this is part of the provenance with the piece. And so it's not just hearsay. There's actually written proof, and I have the envelope that she wrote this and everything. And so to me, that's kind of cool, and that's what I love. I love to research pieces and just put together. It's like a puzzle that you're trying to solve and put all the pieces together.
Yeah, it's sort of like a bit of detective work because you went out and you found who it was, and then you've written to her or you spoke to her and then you've got that back. Oh, that's amazing! I think that's really good. That's a great bit of provenance. Well done. That is really
Yeah,
well
that's my
done.
favorite part when you research a piece. And then when I'm selling a piece, I'm not just selling a piece. I'm selling the story, right? Because to me, the story is better than the piece. When I want to know where it was made, who made it, what was it used for? Was there anything different and unusual about this piece? And then obviously the provenance. So it's all like a puzzle you're putting together, and it's all associated with one piece. Here's another great piece that I collected, and it's actually on my website, theprecolumbiangentleman.com. And so this is an alabaster mask. It's a Maya mask. It's early, about 200 BC to 280, and alabaster is very hard to work with, and it's very soft. And these are very, very rare. But what was really cool about this piece is that it actually glows red when you put a light behind it, because when it was in a burial, they put cinnabar, which is a red oxide, on the burial, and enough of this absorbed into it. So when you put light through it, it's not a clear light; it glows red, which is just fascinating. And so
Wow.
little things like that just kind of just get me excited, and it's just like wow, like it's just great.
Yeah, that is incredible. That's really cool. You can imagine that lit up in a gallery would look absolutely amazing, wouldn't it? It looks amazing just there, Joey.
For
But
sure, for sure.
if you were to like, so what has been your favourite piece that you've found over your time? Have you still got it, or is there pieces that you've let go and you sort of wish you hadn't?
It's it's one of those things where it's like it's a catch-22 where it's like I get attached to certain pieces, but when I sell them and let them go, I'm able to acquire new pieces, and so I'm constantly looking. And to me, I just want to learn as much as possible and just be able to hold the pieces. And even if it's just for a little bit, it's great. But here's a piece that I think is just really incredible. So it doesn't have to necessarily be like a $20,000 piece to be awesome and amazing. But this is, this is a fair little amount. But what's so rare about this is that it's a pre-Maya piece from Monte Alto in Guatemala. And so if you look at the faces, the head, they have 11 gigantic heads similar to the Olmec ones, but this is the Guatemala version. And the ceramics are super rare. You never see the ceramics. So you can see the heads, and they're 3, 4, 5 tons with that exact same face. And so it's just so unusual and weird, and it's got great manganese deposits, and it's just a neat piece to me. And so like it's something like this that gets me excited because it's so rare and unique. Versus, I mean, it's not doesn't have the highest dollar cost, but it's just cool and unusual. And those are the pieces that really get me excited, I think. So
So that because that sort of head doesn't go with the time and anything else in that time in that area, does it? Is that sort of like a different? Because that doesn't
it's from
look
a small area which is in the Pacific slope
right.
of
Okay.
Guatemala. And so a lot of people think that there was contact between them and the Olmec because you've heard of the Olmec colossal heads, right? The 17
Yes.
heads
Yeah.
that they found that are, 10 tons, 20 tons. So
Mm.
they had their own version with these type of heads just like this, but it was a little bit smaller, but still monumental. But the ceramics from the area are super, super rare and they're very early. And so it's just cool and unusual and just something you don't see very often. And that's what gets me excited about pieces. And so I'm going to hold on to this guy for a little bit, but um,
Do
it doesn't have to necessarily be a high dollar amount for me to be keeping it.
yeah. So it's we sort of touched on this pre. We had a little chat pre podcast, didn't we? About it's sort of like this lost civilization. This pre-Columbian stuff goes into, doesn't it? That is now coming to the forefront, more mainstream. It wasn't really talked about, and you see a lot of that in this pre-Columbian stuff. I think you see a lot of that sort of ancient civilization that isn't talked about. I don't know what this
For
civilization was.
sure.
No, nobody does know it, but it does seem to almost be bits of it all around the world. You know, there would be sort of the
Right,
same
right, right. Well,
symbolism in Egypt or in some parts of China, and it's just strange, whether they were connected via ships, and we don't know that. There's no proof of that, or whether they were connected consciously, like I don't know, two people who have invented over time something that, but both in different parts of the country, not knowing each other, but sort of invented something at the same time. The symbolism you can see worldwide, can't you? Especially in like glyphs and stuff like that.
for sure, for sure. The glyphs and then also the pyramid structures. So a lot of people think that the Egyptians
Yes.
had contact, with the Maya because the way they built pyramids, but there's no evidence of that yet. And you would
No.
think that we'd be able to decipher the glyphs in Egypt and then the ones in the Maya area, and there's no mention of cross cultural with that. So sometimes common sense answers everything, right? So you have to remember that the Maya and the Egyptians believed in gods, and the gods were in the sky, right? So if you want to get closer to the gods, how do you do that? You build a mountain, a pyramid. A pyramid is basically a mountain that gets you higher up, and so that kind of does make sense where there is like maybe a similarity in that. But as far as like evidence, there really is no evidence. The other one is with the people talk about the Olmec having African American or have African features, and there's just there is some similarity, but there is no evidence. In fact, the proof is in the pudding. They've done DNA, and you have all these websites that do all DNA ancestry. There is zero African in people in Mesoamerica. I think maybe there's like a 1 or 2%, and that's because of after the 1500s and the plantations and whatnot that were, the mining that occurred. But before that, there was no contact there, and so yeah, I think it's kind of a cool like a fantasy that you want to think about, but is there proof? It's just not there. So
Yeah, until it's proven. Do you think there's a lot of places in South America that are in the rainforest and stuff that haven't been discovered yet? Because apparently there was a talk that there was a massive civilizations there, but it's sort of been lost as such. You know, it would just, I
right,
just,
right.
you know,
Um, Yeah, I think okay. I think a lot of that is fantasy because we do have. However, here's the thing. I don't know if you heard about the thing about the lidar discovery that they
Mm,
made. So
mm,
lidar is a ground or a canopy or jungle penetrating radar where they can strip the jungle away. And so in the last, I think since 2017, they've found additional cities that they didn't know were there. They found causeways connecting all the cities. And the Maya areas were set up just the way we have our cities now. You have a main center, then you have the suburbs, then you have the freeways connecting it all, the highways, connecting all the cities together. So we didn't know that existed until we started using LiDAR. So I think that's where a lot of the new passion for pre-Columbian art is coming in because people are seeing this on the Discovery Channel, on the History Channel, documentaries, and news outlets are reporting, hey, new discovery in the jungles. And so it's an exciting time because you're finding out so much more than we thought. The populations were bigger, they were more advanced and more going on. And then when you start studying that and you look at the art, and like, wow, the art's beautiful as well.
mm. So, what would be a dream piece for you, Joey? What's your dream piece that you would love to have your hands on?
Dream piece. Wow. Um, that's a good question. I wasn't ready for that one. You know what I would say? I would say like an Olmec or a Teotihuacan mask. Those are pretty expensive. About anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 and up. I mean, they can go up to $250,000 and whatnot. So there's very few of them around. That's another thing too. When you talk about fakes and real pieces and whatnot. Sometimes you see these dealers with three or four of those masks, and that tells you right now that those are most likely not real. So there's so very few of these pieces in existence, and so for one person to have so many of them is a big red flag. I'm not making accusations or anything, but that's kind of what you look for. But yeah, that would be a great piece for me, like an Olmec or a Teotihuacan mask. So and someday I will own one of those. So
Yeah, well,
that's
that's
on
it.
that's on the list.
You've got to always, have that dream piece to aim for. I think as well, and I think that actually evolves when you're as a dealer, you evolve that as well, doesn't it? You sort of keep raising the bar. you know?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, when I first started, I was collecting these little $100 clay, they call them gingerbread figures from Kalima. Just little small figures, and never in a million years, thought I'd be where I'm at now. And it was funny because along the way, I've had people say, imagine what your collection's going to look like 10 years from now or 20 years from now. I didn't even think about it. And even along the way, I had people tell me, "You're going to be a dealer. I know it. You're going to be. You have this thing about you just want to know so much about the pieces. And you're not just happy just buying it. You have this curiosity." And I think that's what makes someone a good dealer, and that's what separates me from other people. And it's a small world. We all know each other. All the dealers are my friends. I know them all. But for me, I try to do something a little bit different. So because I don't want to be like everybody else, I want to do something different. And so to me, because I am the pre-Columbian gentleman, you want to do business the old school way, right? The old way. So I
Yeah.
do incorporate some of that. So not only do I have a COA with all, we all, like, for example, this is my COA, right, for a piece. We all have the same COAs. We all do that. But I did the next, I put them in a nice little sleeve for people so it's easy to keep records. And then I also do a thank you card. And with that thank you card, I do a seal, a stamp what's got my logo on it. And so it's just something kind of unique and
Cool.
different, the old school way. So I melt the wax on there, I stamp it, and
Nice.
it's just a little thank you to that, to that person. And I like to do business the old school way where I offer a lifetime guarantee on my pieces. I do a 60-day money back guarantee, no questions asked. If you change your mind, it wasn't what you wanted, or for whatever reason, just send it back. And this is the big one I tell people that every dealer should guarantee their pieces to arrive unbroken. Yeah, I know things happen in the mail, but if you pack it properly, it should get there. And so I
Mm.
have friends that have bought from other places and the pieces arrive broken and they're pretty much on their own. And I think that's a bad way of doing business. And so I guarantee my pieces to arrive unbroken. If something happens, I fix it, take care of it, refund whatever they want. And it's just the best way of doing business. And I think that separates me from other people as well as because I do the videos. And so when I started doing this business, it's kind of here's the thing about this business is that this is 2023, right? We have technology, I mean, it's crazy stuff, and so people are still selling art two dimensionally with the back they were, the way they were 100 years ago. So to me, like we have to step it up. This is a three-dimensional product, and so that's why I use the videos to show the pieces, to explain the pieces, to talk about them, not just the two-dimensional pictures. So that way people can get an idea of what the piece looks like. There will be no surprises. I don't play with the colors on my pieces. This is what you're going to get. And I think that makes a difference for people because that's what I would want, And so when I was a collector starting, I appreciated that, and so I'm just doing the same thing but taking it up a notch a little bit. So.
I think that's a great thing as well, because showing that and then showing yourself as well, people gain the confidence. They can see that you're a genuine person. They can see what you do, how passionate you are, and you can like I was showing you this. It looks all right like that, but then when you sort of turn it round and you see the whole thing and you show it, it looks so much better, doesn't it?
Right.
You really get to see the item.
100%.
And that's where videos are
Right.
so
And it's
good.
a large piece.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right, right. And it's a
Sometimes
large piece. So sometimes you can't scale it.
yeah, you can't scale unless you've got someone next to it, can you? I mean, sometimes I've bought a lot of things and
100%.
they turn up and they're a lot smaller than what you think, And even though they're
Right,
usually cool,
right. That's happened to me
you
before too.
yeah, you get disappointed, don't you? So you do get a
Or
bit of
vice
disappointment.
versa. Sometimes you can get a deal on a piece that's large because it did the scale, the size didn't really show up, and it shows up. You're like, wow, this thing is huge, and so that benefits you. Sometimes the bigger pieces, they do well when people want to buy them or collect them. But yeah, when you can show a piece what it looks like under, inside, the whole thing, it's just transparency is great. Knowledge is power.
Yeah,
So the more you can teach and show people, I think they can make a better informed decision and then be happier with the piece because that's what you want. I don't want to sell just one piece. I develop friendships with my clients, and so they invite me over for special events and for birthdays, and I stay in contact with them. And we talk, to the middle of the night about pieces, and it's cool because it's just friends helping out friends.
yeah. Where do you think, if someone wanted to start collecting Pre-Columbian, where do they start? What do they start doing, Joey? Do they come to someone like you? Is
Um,
that the best
so
thing?
Yeah, 100%. So if you're going to start, what I tell people is that you want to buy the seller, not the piece. So if you're buying from somebody, you want to buy from somebody that's respected, it's been around for a while, that has a big footprint, and someone that offers, money back guarantee, someone that offers refunds in case you're not happy. I also tell people to stay off of eBay and those, because you'll find a real piece on eBay every now and then, but there'll be 30 to 40 reproductions or fakes before you find that real one. So that can lead to disappointment because sometimes that really good deal right now isn't going to be a good deal, a few years down the road when you find out the piece isn't real. Um, Also, here's a big mistake that new collectors make. I don't know if it's an American thing or whatnot, but people want quantity. Like they think a big collection is an amazing collection. That's not necessarily the case. So this is my best advice to a new collector. If you have, say, let's say $500 to spend, buy one piece that's $500 versus buy five pieces that are $100 because over time, yeah, your collection will not grow as fast, but you'll be more interested. That $500 piece will hold your attention more than five $100 pieces will. And so gradually you'll build a quality collection over time. It'll take a little bit, but you'll be much happier with the results versus having a lot of great pieces that are, well, not great pieces, but just having a lot of pieces that are like, yeah, I have a big collection, but it's not really that impressive. So
That's a great tip. I like that one. Yeah, I think that's
it's hard because human
often
nature
not.
tells you want more.
Yeah, it's often not taught that. To be honest with you, first off, when you first start either collecting or dealing, you're not really told that. You're sort of aiming for more. But if you start big to start with, you sort of already raised the bar as well. Do you get what I'm saying? So you've started at a great level. So all you
100%.
as well. So you haven't got so far to travel up to that level either, have you? So yeah, no, that's a great tip. I think in collecting anything, to be honest with you, Joey, isn't it? If you're going to collect
Right.
any sort of
For sure.
ancient.
For sure.
So where are you heading in with your stuff then? So if people want to find you, do they go onto YouTube and where do you do all your stuff? Where are you? What were your handles, Joey?
Yeah, I'm everywhere. So theprecolumbiangentleman.com is my website. If
Mm.
you want to, I made it easy for everybody. You can also type in pcjoey.com. It gets you to the same website. I have anywhere from a dozen to 20 pieces always available. I also post pieces on my Instagram, the Pre-Columbian Gentleman. I'll do videos there, reels. I do TikTok, same thing, the Pre-Columbian Gentleman. And all of them have links to my website. I do YouTubes as well. I've done some YouTube showing authentication, how to authenticate pieces and just general information on that. And then Facebook. So pretty much everywhere you can think of, I'm there. So, but my website's theprecolumbiangentleman.com.
and that's it. So basically, if anybody wants to go and learn anything about this, Joey's your man, basically. So get out there
For
and have
sure,
a
for sure.
look.
And even if they just want
Yeah.
to talk about pre-Columbian art, or if they have a question about, hey, is this for you? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm happy to help people authenticate pieces because sometimes things turn up or their family member passed away and they inherited a piece and they're not sure. So yeah, hit me up. I've helped people all the time. They'll hit me up, and ask for questions on pieces. And unfortunately, most of them are actually not reproductions versus real, but occasionally some nice pieces pop up that people are really happy. Like, hey, this is great. Thanks for helping me out. So always there to help. I love talking pre-Columbian art.
Yeah, that's really cool. Have you ever been to? Obviously, you've been to Mexico. Have you ever been to any of the other places? Where's the best sort of place that you visited that is, of that sort of? I can't remember when I went. I think I went to Mexico and I went to a place. I can't remember what it was called now. It
Probably
was one of
Chichen
the.
Itza,
No, it
Cancun.
wasn't. Yeah, it was near Cancun, but it wasn't that one. It was a smaller one, but it was really cool. It had sort of
Oh,
like,
Tulum, the one on the ocean.
yeah, it might have been that one. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
I've been there a few times. That's cool. My absolute favorite site though is Tikal in Guatemala.
right.
It's just incredible. I've been there 3 times. The people in Guatemala are so friendly and nice, and that city is just to me. This is obviously my I don't know, my opinion, but I think that city is the epicenter of the Maya world. I mean, it's just incredible. Uh, just the city's so large. When you see pictures of like the Grand Plaza, it looks amazing, right? I mean, you have the Temple One, Temple Two. In fact, I use Temple One as my logo on my website. But that whole area is on a huge platform that's 30 feet high. It's just the pictures cannot do it justice. And once you get there and you just see how immense the city is, how beautiful it is, and then it's just so spread out. It's just so impressive. I've been there 3 times, and I'm planning my next trip. It's just it never gets old, and the people of Guatemala are so wonderful and friendly. It's just awesome. My fiance, she came with me on my last trip, and she loved it. And it's just a wonderful place to visit, and you can't just spend one day there or one night. I usually go there for 3 to 4 to 5 days. I do the sunrise tour, sunset tour. You can see the sun setting and rising over the temples and the pyramids, and it's just awe inspiring, and it's my favorite. And once you start visiting those sites, you can kind of put the puzzle together even more because you can see where this piece would have been here. You can see where the marketplace would have been, where they would have sold goods, and it's just I don't know. It kind of completes everything once you see these amazing sites, and they've done a really good job preserving them. They're all secure with guards, and they have rangers, and it's just a wonderful place to visit. And so that's what I recommend. I recommend Tikal in Guatemala. It's just an awesome
Mm.
place.
I think what you're saying there, when you visit these places, a lot of them are linked to sort of sunrise and sunset and the equinox and all different things, aren't they? So you've almost got to be there for sunset and sunrise because different things will line up in different places. They're very linked with the seasons and the stars and the sky. The same as what the pyramids in Egypt are. They're all aligned with different things, aren't they? And you obviously told that by the
For sure,
guides,
for
and you
sure.
obviously learn that. But yeah, I would say you've got to really enjoy the sunset and the sunrise with those places. Yeah.
Right. It's awe-inspiring, and as a human being, it's very humbling because the Maya were able to map the stars and the sunrises and the days. I mean, to such an amazing degree of accuracy, and it's incredible without calculators, without smartphones, without any of this. And it was just by observation over hundreds of years that every day that this is what they mapped it, and so they got to learn the patterns. And then once they learned the patterns, they built the temples and their palaces to align with those and to a really high degree of accuracy. It just blows you away how people could do this. How ancient people could do this without stone tools. It's like
Mm.
wow, it's pretty amazing, and it just makes you appreciate the art that much more because this is created by the same people for the same people, the ceremonies and the same events that they had and celebrations. It's just it's all tied together. It's really cool.
Well, Joey, we've just about done. I thought I could talk to you for hours, mate. I'm sure there'll be another podcast, and you can come and show us sort of anything cool that you have in. We would love to see that at the Wunderkammer because it's something different to what we usually see, basically. So, really appreciate you coming on, mate. And again, everybody out there, you know where to find him now. He's told you all your handles. This will be up on YouTube and on all of the podcasts, audio ones that you can hear, basically Spotify and the whole lot. We'll put it all up there, and no doubt Joey will
Cool.
share it
Yeah,
as
thanks,
well.
my friend. Thanks for having me on here. I really appreciate it. Anytime we get to talk Pre-Columbian art, it's amazing. To my followers, I want to say thank you for the support, and it's great having you along with this journey of mine. It's really wonderful, and I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and an amazing New Year. 2024 is going to be awesome, and
Yeah,
thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me
that,
on it. Appreciate it.
Joey, that is a brilliant closing sentence there, because I think 2024 is just going to be the best, mate. I really do. So thanks very much, mate, and thanks for coming on. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers, my friend. Bye bye.